Okay, folks, this is my very long presentation on how Bobby Nash is not dead. Okay, so this is this section is Bobby's death and why it makes no sense. So Bobby Nash was killed by CCHF, described in the show as Ebola's nastier cousin. It's primarily transmitted through ticks and body fluids in real life, but in the show, it's aerosolized in the explosion. That's not actually possible, but whatever. The fatality rate is up to 40%, but in the show they said 30%, which is actually kind of interesting that they would make it lower in the show than it is in real life. And it has an incubation period of 5 to 6 days with a maximum of 13. That's the longest incubation period they've ever had. In the show, however, I believe it was 3 to 7 days. Okay, so quick symptoms of CCHF according to 911 are fever, bleeding, confusion, tachycardia, and then death from either blood loss or organ failure. Bobby's not the only person who had CCHF. Chimney also got CCHF, and he was the one they were focused on primarily in both episode 14 and 15. He was the one they were trying to save. Okay, so Moira Blake, who developed the cure for CCHF, modified the disease so to have an incubation period of 90 minutes instead of 3 to 7 days, and then when she was fired for doing that, she lit the lab on fire and stole the cure. Chimney's face breather thing was blown off in the explosion, and he proceeded to have symptoms like 10-20 minutes or later and was on the verge of death when Athena finally brought them the cure. I don't think we know the timeline of when she brought them their cure, but I'm gonna assume like an hour, a few hours later. Bobby's air hose was compromised at the same time Chimney's face breather thing was, but he had no symptoms. He showed no symptoms. He was completely fine until Chimney had been saved, everyone was out, and then he went back, locked himself in the quarantine, took off his face mask, and his nose was bleeding, which was like one of the first symptoms that Chimney experienced. And then, even though it took Chimney a long time to start dying after he got that initial nosebleed, Bobby just died. It was pretty quick. Okay, so Hen, when the lab exploded, was crushed by a table and ended up with a collapsed lung. And Chim was going to do an emergency thoracostomy to drain out the fluid in her lungs until Maddie told him it wasn't worth the risk of exposing her to CCHF, because they knew his breather had been compromised, but they didn't know if he had the disease yet. And she told him it wasn't worth the risk. So Bobby did the thoracostomy instead, but he also had CCHF. So Hen should have been exposed to the disease, and also the fact that she had a hole cut in her side in a room full of aerosolized CCHF, she really, really should have contracted the disease. In fact, she probably would have been more likely to contract the disease than Bobby was. Okay, so onto my theories, in order from how good they are, from worst to best. Okay, so the military theory. The military didn't want to save the 118. Athena informed Hartman, the head of the disease control military operation of the cure, and he commanded them not to use the antiviral unless they were prepared to go to prison for domestic terrorism. So she gave it to them anyway, and they saved Chimney, but there wasn't enough to save Bobby. They also didn't know he had the virus, so he locked himself in quarantine, and he died. The military were fully prepared to let Chimney die, let the disease die out with Chimney. They wanted to keep the antiviral for themselves in case they needed to develop a cure. But obviously Chimney ended up getting it anyway. Bobby was carried out in a body bag by 4 probable members of the militia. Okay, so basically, what if the military kidnapped Bobby and let everyone think he was dead so they could do medical experiments on him? If that doesn't make sense, I don't care, because nothing about the show makes sense, and they can use him as the new lab rat, which was the title of episode 15, so Moira can recreate the antiviral. He'll escape and have a beautiful reunion in season 9, but they're going to tease his return in episode 18 of season 8, so people will actually tune in for season 9. Military theory conclusion, he's fine. He's just with the military, and it's so realistic, and I will literally suspend my disbelief for anything as long as they bring Bobby back. So, yeah. Oops. The Hot Shots theory. Okay, Hot Shots is a procedural TV show about firefighters that exists in the 911 universe. It stars Brad Torrance as Captain Race Banner. He has some kind of identity crisis about not being a hero, like not being a real hero because he's an actor. And he tells the show to put his character in a coma. And then he goes and shadows Bobby in the 118. Yeah. Hot Shots is kind of meant to be like 911. Like the station number in the show is the 119. Obviously, the station number in 911 is the 118. It's supposed to be very unrealistic and very dramatic. They're like making fun of themselves, but also judging themselves.
You're a hero.
I'm just doing my job.
So, what do you think?
That was very exciting, Brad.
I really like the music.
The production value, it's off the charts.
Yeah, super cool. You did it, didn't you?
What?
No!
No one said that. It's not supposed to be a documentary.
Yeah, real life is boring, and who wants that? This was fun. But as professionals, did anything bother you? Did anything ring false?
Well, and this is not a big deal. Usually we would put out an engine fire before attempting such a difficult extraction.
That was the network.
And also, we wouldn't call it a hydraulic ram. We just call it a spreader, and we get it.
That was the network, too. They thought spreader was provocative.
I was just gonna say that you wouldn't be blabbing so much, the driver in the middle rescue.
Oh, blabbing? What blabbing?
The speech at the end. Hot shots don't get burned.
Yeah, you're saying we should get rid of this speech?
No, I'm just, in real life, we wouldn't be standing around reacting. We'd be getting her out. I'm just saying it seemed kind of,
Extraneous.
fake.
F what?
No. F is for fun, like Buck said.
I think I need to pop to the loo.
It was a good show, Brad.
Exceptional production value,
No.
Brad.
It's my kid's favorite show. What?
Okay, so Brad Lawrence have an identity crisis. We remember he's with the 118 helping them on calls. He's not really helping, he's just there. Have an identity crisis, being moody, whatever. There's a guy who's gonna jump off a bridge and he sees Brad and he's like, "Hey, you're in my favorite show." Which leads us to this scene.
You're my comfort, Captain.
Well, I appreciate that, son, but you're gonna have to switch the channel.
Captain Race Banner is in a coma. What the suits of the network don't know yet is he's never waking up.
You're killing off Captain Banner?
I'm afraid so.
You can't.
Craig, why would you care? You're about to
End it all.
I'm considering it.
Great. I say we join hands, go over together, eh?
Do you realize how many people would be devastated if you did that?
2 days on TMZ tops.
Then they'd all forget about me.
You're wrong. I know it seems dark right now, but there's one thing I can tell you. There's a spark inside each of us. And if we just hold fast and refuse to let that spark die, it'll grow into a roaring flame nobody will ever put out.
What's happening here?
Season 2 finale, Captain Race Banner's speech on a runaway nuclear sub.
You can't kill off Captain Banner. He's what keeps 119 Fire Family.
Okay, so after he says that, it cuts off, but Brad then agrees to not kill off Race Banner as long as the man doesn't jump off a bridge. That's the end of that whole storyline. Okay. Okay, so this is confusing because you're going to put a whole scene in your show about how this one character, the captain, is so important. He holds the 118 together, or the 119 in this case, and the fans love him so much to the point where they're willing to not yeet themselves off a bridge to get him back. And then you're going to kill off Captain Nash. You're fully acknowledging the meaning that these characters have to people, and then you're gonna kill him off. Like, if this isn't foreshadowing for how Bobby will be okay, it's simply cruel, mocking your fans and killing their comfort character in a show that has released statements saying they'll never kill a main character. It's not okay. In order for this to not be literally the meanest thing ever, it needs to be some sort of secret reassurance or a hint that Bobby's okay. This is the scene where Brad Torrance exits his coma. It's not terribly important. It's just the way they treat the show Hot Shots. It's very dramatic, very ridiculous. Honestly, kind of mirrors the way I talk about 911 to my dad who's never seen it. Because 911 is ridiculous. And Chimney, he gets a guest. Chimney, Buck and Eddie, they all get guest star roles on the show. And Chimney plays the doctor. He tells Brad that he survived. He says, in my scientific opinion, it's a miracle. They don't give an actual reason for how or why Brad is okay. It's just he's okay. Okay, so Tim Minear, the showrunner, he did a lot of interviews and he kept saying he killed off Bobby for realism. He might be making commentary with this whole Brad Torrance thing by saying that Hot Shots is a stupid show because it's dramatic and ridiculous and has no stakes, but 911 is different because now they kill people for realism. But there's never, up to this point, been anything real about 911. See? That's just a few examples. The season started with this.
KP duty.
Is that it's a B NATO.
It's a B NATO. It's a B NATO. In conclusion, Race Banner lived because the fans loved him so much and he stuck around for the fans, and so will Bobby Nash. I think it's kind of proving that we'll let anything slide so long as we get Bobby back. We could literally have a doctor like Chim be like, it's a miracle he's alive. We would probably take that, and Tim's the worst if he actually kills Bobby. That is so mean. He's mocking his fans, and we're the people who watch his stupid show and keep him employed, so maybe he should not do that. The Hosier Theory. Okay, so on March 30th, 2025, a bunch of stuff leaked of a funeral. As we can see in the picture on the left, it's everyone in their funeral outfits. In the front row, we see Harry, May, Athena, and I believe the fire chief, and then we see the 118 behind them. And May is holding a hat. And then in the picture on the right, we can see a turnout coat, and on the back of the turnout coat, it says Nash, and there is a coffin right there. So, this leaked, 3 weeks before the episode 15 aired. And these are all clips from episode 16, which comes out on May 1st, so this leaked almost an entire month before the episode aired. Then, on April 1st, which was 2 days later, Oliver Stark, who plays Buck, posted a video that contained part of a script, which, as we can see, says, I filled in a few words, but we can assume, 911, what's your emergency? Bobby in the coffin. Bobby, I'm being buried alive. And Jennifer Love Hewitt also accidentally leaked it. Someone filled in the words here. It's very grainy, very hard to read. You can tell that these weren't purposely posted. That's so not allowed, posting pictures of scripts, but you can kind of pick out the same things. I'm being buried alive, all that kind of stuff. But the thing with this is it was April Fool's Day, so we don't know if we can trust it. And then in season 8, episode 11, Holy Mother of God, it's a Buck and Bobby centric episode, and it's big on Bobby's relationship with his mother, who works at a super church and like heals people with the power of God. Um, and in this episode, there's a woman who gets buried alive by her husband. He like tries to murder her, and she ends up living, and she pops out of the garden. She's literally buried alive. If Bobby gets buried alive, this could be some kind of foreshadowing or a parallel, but like, I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Then Bobby Nash dies to the song Work Song by Hozier, and the lyrics literally say, "No grave can hold my body down, I'll crawl home to her." That's gotta be a hint, right? That's insane. So in conclusion, Bobby was buried alive. If Oliver and Jennifer Love Hewitt are playing with us, like I know it was April Fool's, but that is kind of mean, especially right after the leaks of the funeral. Like, I don't know. It's not my strongest theory, but it's okay. And then there's the Star Trek theory. Okay, so post episode 15, Tim Minear was doing so many interviews, but he did an interview with Deadline, where he said a lot of freaking stuff, but he was talking about how, people are starting to get used to the fact that he doesn't kill off people, and there's no stakes anymore, so he wanted to kill someone off, and he decided to give someone an epic Wrath of Khan-like death. And he decided it was going to be Bobby who had this death. Now, The Wrath of Khan is the second film in the Star Trek film series. The Wrath of Khan-like death that Tim is talking about is Spock's death. Spock is like one of the main characters of Star Trek. The death wasn't taken well with test audiences, and people knew that Spock was going to die before the film was released. Like, it was widely reported on, everyone knew about it. Kind of like how everyone knew Bobby might die because of the Bobby funeral leaks. Perhaps this was intentional. Okay, so this is the scene from The Wrath of Khan where Spock dies. I watched it for the first time while I was making this presentation, and it literally convinced me even more because the parallels are actually insane.
Spock!
Ship. Out of danger.
Yes.
Don't grieve, Admiral. Just logical. The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
Or the one. I never took the Kobayashi Maru test. Until now. What do you think my solution? Spock. I have been, and always shall be, your friend.
Okay, so I'm gonna admit I've never seen Star Trek, but, it's pretty obvious. Like, the parallels are kind of insane. He's dying of radiation poisoning by himself. He is sacrificing himself to save everyone else, and just, I mean, this, like, literally it's the same. The glass between the two of them saying goodbye, like, this can't not be a parallel. But here's why the similarities are good. Spock is alive. They fully have a funeral with a casket. I'm pretty sure they like release him out in space. Okay, girl, I do not know. But Spock is alive. And they resurrected him or something. I don't know. They can figure out some way to resurrect Bobby Nash. I will literally let them do whatever they want as long as they bring back Bobby. Okay? That's literally all I need. There's also this. Okay, so in Star Trek, they say, Spock says, I have been and always shall be your friend. And then in Oliver Stark's goodbye post to Peter, he says, my dear friend Peter, we miss you at work with us every day. You were and still will be our leader always. It's not an exact match to the I have been and always shall be your friend, but it's very similar, and I feel like it is a nod to Star Trek. And also the fact that he says you were and still will be our leader always is really interesting. Okay, so Tim Minear has done this before. In Season 7, Episode 9, Ghost of Second Chance. In Season 4, Episode 7, There Goes the Neighborhood. He did, like, parallel storylines from other movies that already exist. So, Season 7, Episode 9 parallels, Vertigo. So, around the same time the episode Ghost of a Second Chance was released, Tim Minear posted this on social media. It says Ryan Guzman, Devin Kelly in Tim Minear's masterpiece Vertigo. Ryan Guzman plays Ryan Guzman plays Eddie. Devin Kelly plays Shannon/Kim, and Tim Minear obviously showrunner. This post is supposed to look like this Vertigo original poster, which, yeah. And obviously you can see they made the guy in the Tim poster look like a firefighter. It says Diaz in the back of his turnout coat. Okay, so Eddie's plotline in Season 7, Episode 9, and a little bit of the previous episodes. So this is the episode where Kim, a woman who looks like Eddie's dead wife Shannon, comes to Eddie's house and pretends to be her in order to help Eddie move on. It's a very similar to the plot of Vertigo, where a man gets very infatuated with a woman, she dies, and then he meets her doppelganger and starts seeing her romantically. That plot's a little more complicated. I think she actually was the woman who died, and it was like a murder plot. I'm not really sure. I have not seen it. But Kim, the doppelganger in 911, is named after the actress who played the doppelganger in Vertigo, Kim Novak. Season 4, Episode 7 mimics Rear Window, which is a Hitchcock film. I believe Vertigo was also a Hitchcock film. But in this one, Michael and Bobby have a plotline where they spy on Michael's neighbor through the window. And he constantly has people in and out of his house with, like, bruises and bandages. And I think it ends up being an illegal plastic surgery kind of thing. But it's very similar to the plot of Rear Window, except for I think in that one he's witnessing his neighbor murder his wife or something. I didn't look into it that much. Yeah. But in conclusion, Tim Minear referenced this movie in an interview about killing Bobby, and it has so many parallels to Star Trek, and it's, you can't tell me that goodbye scene between Spock and Kirk is not the same as the goodbye scene between Bobby and Athena, like, it's actually insane. You can't tell me he did that, it was, like, and it was a coincidence. I said it wasn't. It's not a coincidence. That's what I was trying to say. He's comparing Bobby's death to the death of a character that was temporary. They brought Spock back, and they're bringing Bobby back. And he's literally done this with, like, copying plot lines before. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he did do this. Yeah. So, I don't think the messy PR, my least favorite part. It's, scary out there, guys. Okay, so Peter Krause did some exit interviews. Guys, a lot of actors who have characters kill off, they do exit interviews, even if their characters come back to life. So David Harbour as Hopper in Stranger Things, he did exit interviews. So did Kit Harington as Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, and so did Brett Dyer as Michael in Jane the Virgin, just to name a few. Fun fact, Bobby and Michael from Jane the Virgin were killed by the same person. I really don't trust that woman in anything. Okay, then there's the leaks. Tim is the worst, and he really claims he had no idea that the funeral scenes would leak because he didn't realize how big the show was. Girl, you didn't know how big your own you didn't know how big your own show was. Like, I feel like as the showrunner, you should know that. Actually, it's insane to film a scene like that and not completely seal the set. Like, people were filming, taking pictures with the cast, live streaming. Like, it was obvious that they were doing that. There were so many people around. Most sets have a no phone policy. If they really don't want something to leak, and this seems like something they wouldn't want to leak, they would have a completely closed set. Like, no one would be allowed on that street. Like, no one would be able to have their phone out. If they saw you with your phone, girl, like, that's freaking bad. They're gonna make you put it away. Like, it feels very fishy that this happened. Same with the Buck and Eddie goodbye scene. I also think that was a PR stunt to get attention for the show, because it worked. It did work. And also, I think they're trying to convince us that Bobby's dead, but I'll get to that. Tim Minear, I swear there's a new interview every day, and each one makes me more angry and makes me like him less. He needs to stop. He called himself a benevolent god in one of them, and he recently said that he's going to do a mass casualty event in episode 18. Which makes me annoyed, because I just want to let them have a second to grieve, because that's a huge part of their lives, and I don't think they can, or I don't think they or we can move on that fast from Bobby Nash. Okay? Okay. But also, we might not have to grieve, because obviously Bobby Nash is alive. So, hey. Okay, so this is him saying, he's talking about how Kenneth Choi kept calling him and being like, we can bring Bobby back. Just please bring Bobby back. And he says everyone was kind of trying to bargain with God. In this case, I would be God, and I am a just God, and I'm a benevolent God. But he died. Yeah, you can imagine how that just makes me upset. And then, he recently did this. It's hard to imagine where the ABC drama will go for its last episode of the season after the traumatic two-parter episodes of 14 and 15, but the showrunner promises a real 911 emergency finale after fun conceit or something we haven't really done before for the penultimate episode. That leads to a mass casualty event, Minear previews. Even in their grief, they're first responders. They've got to put that aside and work together to save people. So I think we'll see in the last 3 episodes, yes, grief, loss, sadness, and rallying and victory. Listen, I get the whole thing that they're first responders and they are going to have to, like, do their jobs, but the fact that you just gave us this huge emergency, we're still recovering, and you're giving us another one, like, I feel like we would have been fine with just some, like medium-sized ridiculous calls like you normally do. Like, I don't think we needed another mass casualty event. Like, thinking about that actually stresses me out. Like, I just want my comfort show back, and it doesn't feel very comforting right now. Okay, so personally, I think they're trying to do some big plot twist and be like, Bobby's alive, and that's why they're pushing so hard with Bobby being dead. With the leaks, the interviews, the cast's goodbyes, like, why did Aisha change the caption on her post? Like, that was kind of weird. Tim's just really annoying me, because it feels like he's trying to, like, outsmart us, and, like, bruh. In conclusion, why bring Bobby back? Why bring Bobby Nash back? The fans want him back, for one. Peter Krause didn't want to leave the show, and the rest of the cast also didn't want him to leave. Episode 15 is the lowest rated episode by far. It scored a 4.1, which is insane. It's the second lowest rated is Ghost Stories, which rated a 6.8, and every other episode is rated a 7 or higher, which is really good, actually. People will stop watching the show, viewership's gonna drop, and it's gonna be cancelled after season 9, most likely, which makes me so angry. And Tim Minear basically told us he wouldn't give us any main character deaths, and then he killed off Bobby. Like, you're kind of going back on your word there, babe. And Bobby's the most liked character by basically every demographic. He's loved by, like, the 18 to 20-year-olds, the older women, like, the men, literally everyone loves Bobby. literally everyone loves Bobby. Why would you kill off your like most beloved character? The frick. Tim, here are my terms. I'll maybe forgive you. Oh, I'm never gonna like you again, babe. But I'll maybe forgive you if you bring back Bobby and you give us buddy. Wow, you give us Buddy Cannon, and also if you kill Tommy, please. Okay, those are my sources.